How can creativity and inspiration change the world? Now, if we can use media, music, art to plant seeds in the co-creative consciousness of the mass consciousness, we can begin to kick in that 100th monkey effect. But we can also prepare them for when they do start to hear some of these disclosures that are very difficult to hear. A lot of us want to believe disclosure is going to be a kumbaya moment, but it is going to be a traumatic. It's going to be one of the most traumatic things that ever happened to this planet. That's what disclosure is going to be. I've said before, all evolution occurs through stress, and this is going to be a major stressful evolution, but it's one that is far overdue. So, what can we do? If we put our talents into our arts, our media, our music, each one of us is on the front line and a soldier in this battle to affect the co-creative consciousness. We have a lot more power than we have been led to believe. So, right now, the Satanist using music, arts to invade our mind, and that is another type of mind control, so that we will always stay asleep without waking up to break the chain and fight against them. What does united in the community mean? We don't have to agree on most things even. The only thing that we really need to agree on is that none of us have the answers, and that if we can unify this community, we can affect massive change. I think we do have troublemakers out there that are always trying to stir up problems. But for the most part, I've never seen people more willingly to work together. People that usually keep their work from each other. This is mine. No, this is mine. Well, now they are sharing and they are working together. We definitely need more unity. Why is the next 3-year window so important? When he was talking to me about this mass consciousness, he stated that the next 3 years is a window that is critical for humanity to begin to work to affect the rest of the mass consciousness. We have to have a major change. We may miss that optimal temporal reality, and if we just sit back and wait for others to do the work, then we are just as much to blame. How does the solar sneeze factor into all this? There are a number of ancient religions that allude to a solar event that occurs on a cycle. The programs of this remote viewing, I believe it's Ed Dames that did a remote viewing about the kill shots. He believed that the sun was going to explode and it was going to take out the earth. In the programs, there are different versions of what they think will occur when there is this solar event. Many people believe there will be a large, like 360-degree mass coronal ejection that will take out our electronics for weeks or permanently. This is what is happening right now, the solar minimum, grand solar minimum. And I think the CME and the coronal ejection, which is the solar flare, have been affecting us and the Earth. Right now, the effect that happened is our atmosphere can no longer block the UVC. It's not UVA, UVB, the regular UV from the space, but the UVC that shouldn't be entering into our Earth. And now that's why the radiation increasing. If that occurs, a lot of people think that that's going to be the best time to usher in all these new technologies after the infrastructure has been taken out by this electromagnetic pulse. And of course, we have people in the programs that are more esoteric or religious that believe that it's going to be an ascension event. They believe that when this solar event occurs, that people are going to be turned to bodies of light. Within these programs and even within the cabal, you have a wide range of people. You have the pragmatic people, the show me people, and you have the religious people. What can people do right now to prepare for the coming changes? All of the karma, all of the things that we've refused to deal with in life, that's actually a blessing. All of these things, all of these traumas, pains that we haven't dealt with are like third density encores. When these new energies are passing through us, there's drag. These third density experiences cause drag and hold us back. If we deal with all of our trauma and stop the wheel of karma, then we are changing the world one person at a time. We are also showing people through example that forgiveness can occur, and we are going to be prepared at least for whatever this event is. All of us have different ideas about what this event is, but there's definitely an event coming. Who is the negative race that's paralyzing people? Which does occur, but even in our programs, when they go down to a neighborhood, they will delta wave the neighborhood. They will put everyone into a deep state, a lower state of consciousness that is one of the states of sleep. That's why if awake during one of those situations, no matter what you do, you cannot wake up the person next to you if you are not affected by it. Now, a lot of these technologies are used not only by humans in these programs, but by different non-terrestrial groups. It is very easy for them to cause you to affect your neurology remotely, to not only give you sleep paralysis, but to make you get up, walk out the door, open the door, close the door behind you, walk down the street almost like you are, literally remote controlling you. Their technology is so much more advanced than they understand the mind-body connection. I'm not really familiar with people wearing just that description of wearing black clothes. A lot of the times, if a person is abducted by a non-terrestrial, they will be brought. After they are brought back, they are readopted by the military with advanced technology. And they have a much messier way of messing with our memories when they are done. A lot of these people are people that they will wear alien type costumes. They will wear all black, but it could be anywhere from an ET group to a military group. I think it is similar to the fallen angels that they're trying to describe here actually. Of course, they have supernatural powers that control us remotely, physically and mentally. Is the rising Schumann resonance a factor in the ascension process? If indeed the Schumann resonance is fluctuating, and I've talked to a few people in the programs that debate that, some of them say that it's not. But the feedback that I've been talking about, our star system traveling through this different part of the galaxy, through this, basically is an interstellar high energy dust cloud. The energy is, since the star is like a torsion field, the energy is wrapping around the north and south poles, going in through the top and bottom, but it feeds out through our star. The energy feeds out through our star into our system. I don't know if I've interpreted this correctly. All the fallen angels are imprisoned in Antarctica, which is the South Pole, beneath the ice surface. And then the North Pole, from Greenland to the North Pole, is another place for military base people have been talking about over the years. Are the Archons the same as the Anarchy? Cobra talks quite a bit about these Archons who are supposedly running the show. And I've heard the whole Anarchy story, not just with David Wilcock, but with Barbara Machiniak. And you are probably familiar with the Anarchy. Are they one and the same? Do you have any knowledge about who these Archons are? And are they related to the so-called Anarchy? I hear Archons, the Jinn, a lot of different terms, but there have been etheric type beings, as strange as it sounds, people using different forms of black magic and also technologies have caused basically tears between these different dimensions, not densities, but realities. These disembodied beings that are controlled through contracts, they will get a certain amount of lush if they follow the lead of one of these dark magicians. I was told that when we have this solar event, that it will change the energy or the repertory energy of our solar system in a way that these beings will not be able to be here anymore. He stated that they will be pushed back to somewhere called the outer realm. I think that's what it is when God's wrath at the end times, which means this so-called solar event, and then all the demons, deities, fallen angels, and reptilians, scorpions, they will get killed, and then Satan will cast down to the fire, lake of fire in hell. Can you say more about the ancient builder race? For a number of years in the beginning of the programs, we were coming across very ancient structures in our solar system, on the moon, Mars, various planetoids that were extremely ancient. Not only that, but where we saw that at one point where glyphs and writings had been, it had been wiped away, much like the kings of Egypt would wipe away the history of a competing king or ideology. The information that we have is that this group existed in our solar system 1.8 to like 2.4 billion years ago. What we found out after a large amount of time was that our local stellar neighborhood is made up of approximately 51 or 52 stars. When we started to travel to these different star systems, we were finding out that this ancient builder race technology was spread throughout the whole 52 star cluster. And at one point, they had developed some sort of defense grid to protect that 52, that local star cluster. At some point, groups that were being protected within this grid were warring with each other, and they hijacked this technology to use against each other, and they inadvertently brought down this protective grid. That's when all of this, what I was told were genetic farmer races, came in and began to use, I guess, what the most advanced and converted technology out there is genetics. It occurred approximately 500,000 years ago. About that time, Tiamat exploded. That is the information on the glass pads in the program anyway. Okay, so genetics, which means they've been targeting our DNA. They try to change our DNA into one of them, or even just hybrid, like half human and half fallen angel or reptilians, whatsoever you call it. That's why they always been targeting us, our blood, our genetic, our DNA, our psychological mind, etc. Are there any updates on Atlantis, Antarctica, or the battle with the Cabal? With all the distractions going on today with the world and events and those kinds of things, are there any new updates with Atlantis and what's happening with that as far as information coming out to kind of subdue things. Or from some of your other talks, have the cabal been cleaned out of the underground bunkers? Like, what's the update with that whole situation? The last I heard that they weren't taking out all the underground bunkers, that there were certain bunkers that were built under FEMA, but were built for other purposes. Once there was a change in command, when the presidency changed, these certain groups were refusing to vacate, and they went in and removed them. As far as anything new on Antarctica, I've had a couple of briefings, but they've been basically just more about the Raytheon type facilities that were built in Antarctica starting in the late 1950s. If you have seen the video about Project Iceworm, I believe it's at Camp Freedom that was built in Greenland in the late 1950s. It was a secret base that was built where they were going to put missile silos. Well, this type of modular building under the ice was used to build a large number of facilities in Antarctica close to some of these recovered craft that were deep under the ice. What more can you say about the Mayans you have met? It was related to me that this group, the Earth, has been used as a place for refugees, cosmic refugees. They were here for a long period of time as cosmic refugees, and at a certain point, those of them who had not interbred with others outside of their group were picked up and taken, and they disappeared. And I was told there was like 40 million of them. Is the global sexual abuse phenomenon occurring due to different timelines? I have two separate but related questions. One is about the sexual abuse phenomena on that planet, and I'm under the impression that this is something that is a plague that's been given by the reptilians or perhaps another group, and that one of the methods they use is to manipulate people's timelines so that they retroactively will have experiences of sex abuse. And this is one of the ways of spreading the sex abuse on the planet, because these beings get food every time somebody's upset by this type of memory. The energy is referred to as lush, the energy that they feed off of or vampire from. Do you know or are you aware of this time manipulation of abuse that is part of why people can't remember their memories until later? Or why their families members won't admit it or can't remember it because everybody's in different timelines. Now, there can be a timeline aspect because there were timeline aspects to the secret space program, overlapping timelines. But in a lot of this training, they use physical and sexual trauma to not create schisms in your psyche, but we naturally want to disassociate from these traumas. So the trauma that we are trying to work on, trying to figure out, a lot of times this is just a tool to cause us to compartmentalize that memory. That might be a deeper memory behind that terrible experience. That terrible experience was just used as a way to cause you to disassociate and compartmentalize that memory. When we do have a full disclosure all of the occultic and sexual abuse stuff, when that stuff comes out, that's going to be one of the things that causes a lot of people to hand these people from like posts. Is the Asperger's and autism phenomenon a result of gray alien hybrid activity? I'm under the impression that this rash of people, children on the spectrum of Asperger's and autism, is gray alien abduction of women in pregnancy and then their children are hybrid. Are you aware of this, or does this resonate for you? I had not heard that, but There is so much going on in these genetic farmer programs that there are 22 main programs that these non-terrestrial groups are performing on humanity. It's of a genetic nature, but it's also of a spiritual nature. It's about, to them, they are studying evolution in different energetic fields, from stars and also the evolution of consciousness. Some of the programs are not only the genetic nature, but they are a spiritual nature. Some of these beings are agreeing to incarnate down here. I guess starseeds you could call them, but they are doing so to take part in this grand experiment. Were the reptilians and other negative races removed after year 2012? Okay, now we are going back to year 2012, so you can tell year 2012 is a very significant year. I was under the impression that the reptilians or races that were interfering with our planet were removed after year 2012. I've heard different messages from different places and just wanted to get clear on that. It kind of seems like they have been removed because things have been falling apart globally. I don't have any information about any particular species being removed. There was a barrier that was created that has prevented different groups from coming and going to our star system, kind of like a large field that they can penetrate. That field means the veil. The veil has been broken and they're coming in and out as of now, as we speak. And the fallen angels, reptilians, scorpions, all the demons, all the deities. Can you clarify what time is it? I'd love for you to address a little more in depth the topic of time. I find it the single most mind-boggling topic for me in my research. We are working with some scientists who are using quantum fields to manipulate the effect of time on matter. In a certain sense, they can move biological cells. They can advance the aging of them, or they can pause the aging, or they can actually reverse the aging in such a way the cancer cells go back to their wholeness. So they are affecting a biological timeline, but to me, that's not quite the same as traveling in time. And I wonder if the classic paradoxes of if you actually go back in time, then maybe your parents didn't meet, and all of a sudden I snap out of existence, and so forth. In your experience, is that a function of moving on different timelines so that it doesn't affect the one we are on? Could you just clarify time for us? Now, when I was in the programs, they were manipulating the stages of cells through, and some of them said that they were manipulating them on a quantum level that were basically bringing them forwards and backwards in time for that one organism, if you will. Now that organism is not being moved within time linearly. But what is occurring is that certain fields can be applied that will advance or reverse the state of a cell or an organism. It sounds to me like that is what is occurring instead of there actually being a temporal field that is being created. Within an electromagnetic temporal field that is being created, that is actually creating some sort of time distortion within it. Portals. These portals that they use, if you've seen Stargate, you see, it's a flat portal against a wall with a ripple like a pond. What they have is these things are set up by devices. There will be 3, sometimes 4 devices around a room pointed to a center point. And what occurs is that when they create this portal, it creates what looks like a spear that has a mirage effect to it. If you have seen above a highway that mirage effect and the ground seems to sink down, in almost a conical way. People can walk into it from 360 around it. And when they walk in, they get smaller and it looks like they are walking downhill. And they come out on the other side at 360 degrees, so that it's definitely manipulating time and space in an electromagnetic way. The cosmic web. Now for me to give the description of what is exactly occurring, I can't. I can tell you how the cosmic web works, how the star, these portals work. There is what we call the cosmic web. I'm sure you've seen images of Hubble, where they have taken different types of exposures and different spectrum images to where you see all the different galaxies are connected and it looks like a web. Well, between each of these galaxies is an electromagnetic filament connection. And being that the correct physics model is nothing like the classical physics model, it's an electroplasmic torsion universe. The whole universe is a giant torsion field. A whole lot of the places where people are thinking they are seeing dark matter, there are torsion fields that are affecting the way we are seeing light. Now, between each star within a galaxy is this same electromagnetic filament connection. Within each star system, there's an electromagnetic filament connecting to everything in that star system, every planet, every moon. They've learned to calculate all these planets. They have Greeks or ley lines as the Earth is rotating, and that electromagnetic filament is going deeper, further out, down, and up and down around the Earth as it's spinning. It is activating different nodes. Think of the path of least resistance. It travels like electricity. And these nodes will give the ability to open up a portal. It will give you a pathway and entrance. And they've found a way to calculate when and where this would open or be available. Sometimes they appear deep underground or under the ocean, at ground level, or even in our upper atmosphere. They use this hyperdimensional mathematics model to be able to calculate the spin of a planet. How to calculate? And they have a code that's much like TCP/IP to be able to travel between these different star systems, but they have to calculate. As planets are moving around in our star system, this electromagnetic filament will connect to our moon, or it will connect to some other body in our system. So you have to calculate it just right, because it works like electricity. It's traveling the path of least resistance. So it's traveling through the sun, and whatever node is able to create that connection is where the portal is able to be opened.